This is Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.
Hello viewers, you're watching Pulse of Africa. I'm Samia Mohammed for the main news. First, our top stories for today. Gabon's top court approves 8 presidential candidates. African Union chairperson visits Mogadishu. Petrobras expands exploration into Africa. Canadian Prime Minister Carney calls snap election. Now, the news in detail. Gabon's Constitutional Court has approved a list of 8 candidates to run in the 12 April presidential election, including transitional president Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema. The 50-year-old Nguema main rival in the election is expected to be Alain Claude Bilibayenzi, 57, who is running as an independent candidate and was the last prime minister under Gabon's president Ali Bongo. Under the country's constitution adopted in November 2024, only civilians can run for president, which requires Nguema to temporarily leave the armed forces. If elected, his separation from military service will become permanent. Gabon has been under a transitional government since 30 August 2023. In November 2024, the country held its third ever referendum to adopt a new constitution with a majority of citizens supporting the changes. Now to Tanzania. Tanzania has launched the 2025 edition of the National Water Policy, aiming to enhance water availability and beef up the protection of water sources. The new policy, an update of 2002 edition, was launched by President Samia Suluhu Hassan in the port of city of Dar es Salaam on last weekend as part of celebrations to mark World Water Day. Hassan said the updated national water policy enhances private sector engagement in financing water projects and strengthens the protection of water infrastructure to bolster water availability. She called for creating a national water grid to oversee the usage of water resources across the country, while also encouraging her fellow citizens to cultivate a habit of harvesting rainwater for use when the resource is scarce. Moving on to AU. The African Union chairperson Mohamed Ali Yusuf visited Mogadishu, Somalia on March 23, 2025, marking his first official trip to the country since assuming office in February 2025. He was welcomed at Aden Ade International Airport by Somali Deputy Prime Minister Salah Ahmed Jama and other senior officials. The 2-day visit focused on strengthening cooperation between the AU and Somalia, particularly in areas of regional security, economic development, and state-building efforts. During his visit, Chairperson Yusuf met the Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed at the Villa Somalia Presidential Palace. Discussions emphasized the AU's ongoing commitment to Somalia's stabilization, especially through the African Union support and stabilization mission in Somalia. Shifting to albatross colonies. A fast spreading from a bird flu is devastating colonies where almost half of the world's wandering the albatrosses breed on a remote island group halfway between South Africa and Antarctica. High pathogenicity avian influenza, or HPI H5N1 virus, has been confirmed on South Africa's Marion Island after samples were shipped back to the mainland, the country's Environment Department said in the statement on March 23rd. Of the 1,900 wandering albatross chicks born on the island in 2024, some 150 have died, and adult brown squaws, king penguins, giant petrels, and sooty albatrosses have also been affected, according to the department. Marion Island and neighboring Prince Edward Island are one of the world's premier seabird conservation sites, with millions of birds representing 31 species breeding on the islands. In other news, Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov announced Sunday that talks between US and Ukrainian delegations have concluded in Saudi Arabia's capital Riyadh, saying the discussion was productive and focused with key points including energy addressed. In a post on social media platform X, Umarov, who led Ukrainian delegation, emphasized that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's goal is to secure just and lasting peace for Ukraine and Europe at large, claiming, "We are working to make that goal reality." The talks came almost 2 weeks after a previous meeting between the two sides in the Saudi port city of Jeddah saw Ukraine accept a U.S. proposed 30-day ceasefire plan in exchange for Washington lifting its pause on military aid to and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. Shifting to our next story. New Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday called snap election for April 28, saying he needed a strong mandate to deal with the threat posed by U.S. President Donald Trump. The comments showed the extent to which relations between the U.S. and Canada, two longtime allies and major trade partners, have deteriorated since Trump imposed tariffs on Canada and threatened to annex it as the 51st state. Although the next election was not due until October 20, Carney is hoping to capitalize on a remarkable recovery by his Liberal Party in the polls since January, when Trump began threatening Canada and former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced his resignation.
The story of resurgent Ethiopia and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel, all the time. Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.
Turning to business news. Oil prices slipped on Monday as investors assessed the outlook for ceasefire talks aimed at ending the Russia-Ukraine war, which could lead an increase in Russian oil to global markets. As a result, Brent crude futures fell 25 cents and intermediate crude fell 20 cents. Both benchmarks settled higher on Friday and recorded a second consecutive weekly gain as fresh U.S. sanctions on Iran and the latest output plan from the OPEC Plus producer group raised expectations of tighter supply. Expectation of progress in peace negotiation between Russia and Ukraine and the potential easing of U.S. sanctions on Russia oil pressured prices lower, said Toshikata Tazawa, an analyst, Fujitomi Securities. But investors are holding back on large positions as they evaluate future OPEC Plus production trends beyond April, he added. Finally, Brazilian multinational Petrobras is intensifying its African exploration activities, with drilling projects planned for Sao Tome and Principe, South Africa in 2025. According to Reuters, Silvia dos Anjos, Petrobras head of exploration and production, confirmed the extraordinary wells will be drilled between July and August in an oil block where the company holds a stake. Petrobras is broadening its global footprint amid regulatory challenges in Brazil, with additional projects under assessment in Argentina and offshore gas development in Colombia. Before concluding, let us provide you with the latest updates on global commodities prices. Now to weather updates. That's all for today, and thank you for watching Pulse of Africa.
This is Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.